Hello everyone, Justin Haggerty here from the International Drone Racing Association, IDRA, and today I want to talk to you about insurance again. This is our third live video to discuss insurance, and we're focusing this video on different types of drone insurance and how we at IDRA would like to help you not only understand the different options that you have out there and the differences between different coverages, but also a little bit of information about what IDRA can provide you as a drone operator, either recreational or commercial. So I put a bunch of links in the text for this Facebook Live video. Once this video is uploaded to our website, the links will then be posted below the video so that you can follow along with what I'm talking about and or do some due diligence on yourself and try to find this information on your own, do some reading, which I highly advise you to find the information so that you can yourself understand the different options that you have in insurance to make sure that you and your aircraft at all times, anytime that you're operating, are covered from any liabilities. So let's get started. The first link I want you to go to is uavcoach.com/drone/insurance or -insurance-guide/. So when you go there, you'll see their blue logo, UAV Coach. It'll say drone insurance, a step-by-step guide to liability and drone hull insurance. Now they have it broken down into different chapters. Chapter 1, what is drone insurance? Chapter 2, accident and drone liability coverage. Chapter 3, what types of coverage are available? Chapter 4, how much does drone insurance cost? Chapter 5, how to get drone insurance. Chapter 6, list of brokers, companies that will insure your drone. Chapter 7, how to file a drone insurance claim. And then Chapter 8, next steps after you've read all that. So I definitely trust the information on this, UAV Coach. There's some quality information that goes over pretty much everything that we're going to talk about in this video. And we're also going to discuss more. We're going to show you some other sites, some other links to go to get additional information. But UAV Coach does a pretty good job covering it all in detail with those different chapters. So go there, check it out on when you have time to read more, to get more information about drone insurance. We also, or I put another email or link in the video below the UAV Coach. It's thebalance.com, what you need to know about drones and your insurance. And it goes on to discuss about just the amount of money that we spend in the hobby on the various aircraft that we use, either if you're buying them off the shelf, buying an expensive DJI, buying a Unique, a Parrot, or some of the larger commercial aircraft that you can order. Or if you're building them yourselves, you're a hobbyist, you're building an FPV, a mini quad or multi-rotor on your own, or even a fixed wing like styrofoam. Even that, they're expensive. It's an expensive hobby, and there's a lot of liabilities with it. And the article on this page just goes into do you really need to buy insurance? The different kind of damage and liabilities that are often seen within recreational. Anywhere up between $40,000 to $2,000. That's just impact, right? What about if you cause a fire? What if your lipos caught fire and burned down the property that you're flying at? I've seen that. I've seen races where they caught fire to an entire field, and the fire department came out. Who's going to pay? Not only the fine for that, but who's going to pay for the services of the fire department? Who's going to pay for the damage of the property? And the article also goes into drone regulations, different requirements for insurance. Are there requirements to have insurance for your drone or UAS? And then, how and where do you find liability insurance to cover the different risks associated with operating an aircraft or unmanned aircraft? And so go to this link. Like I said, it's on thebalance.com. What you need to know about drones and your insurance. It's listed underneath the post for this video. It's below the link that we have for UAV Coach. If you go all the way down, it just lists, again, the different liabilities: personal injury, invasion of privacy claims from your neighbors or where you're operating, damages to public and private property, medical expenses associated with bodily harm. And then some tips on what kind of insurance that you need to look for from any way that you're using it. If you're racing, you're just flying recreational in parks. If you're flying for some commercial purposes, for aerial photography or surveying, obtaining more or different various informations. And they even, if you go down to the 6th paragraph, they even recommend you to check out UAV Coach and their community and the different information that they can provide. And also a list of different companies, major companies, and insurance agencies where you can find policies for liabilities. If you go to the next link that we posted, you will see it under the balance.com link. It's fitsmallbusiness.com. Drone insurance. This is just another site another good site that has an overview over drone insurance and what's out there and why you need it. It's just drone insurance. Do you really need it? Since the demand for drone photography and video has skyrocketed in the past few years, insurance carriers have been taking note. While there were very few options for drone insurance even 5 years ago, today there are many options to choose from. And it lists different articles that you can check out to get more information. It goes over what drone insurance is. Drone insurance provides UAV or UAS operators protection against accidental injuries or damage inflicted by their drone. Drone insurance primarily covers third-party liability claims for small business owners and more infrequently damage to the drone itself. And don't forget recreational, the need for recreational insurance or to be covered for recreational use. While most insurers gear their coverage options toward commercial use of drone, those that use drones for personal or hobby can still get covered, and I highly recommend you do. While the use of drones has increased dramatically over the past few years, as in 2017, there are no regulations which require hobby or commercial drone operators to carry liability insurance. But that could change, right? The FAA is working with Congress and also the Department of Transportation to figure out future regulations for our growing industry. And they can look over the Atlantic Ocean and look at different requirements that are in existence with companies or with regulatory bodies in Europe, and they can even look at Canada, different countries across Europe and even Canada that require you to have liability insurance to operate an aircraft, no matter what. Just like if you're going to drive a car, you need auto insurance to cover any liabilities or property or even bodily harm that could potentially occur with an accident while operating that vehicle. And it's not that far-fetched to say that our own regulatory body and our own government here in the United States or wherever you are, whoever's listening to this, if you're in a country that currently doesn't require insurance, it could change, right? And so you should be looking not only to cover your own liabilities because it's smart, because you can't afford to take the risk of not being insured, but to get ahead of the game and understand what options you have out there if the case comes that your government requires you to be insured as an operator. And just go through, there's other testimonials, expert tips on this site, how much drone insurance costs. That varies between different different aircraft and or different risks associated with how you're operating it and the agency, right? There's some prices here for 2018, $1 million coverage per liability for $750. For 2 million, 1,000, 3 million, 1,500, 5 million, 2,000, that's very high. You're going to find a lot of overpriced policies across the industry, mostly because if you watched my last video, a lot of these policies were not designed for unmanned systems, like small multi-rotor operations. A lot of these were renamed, rebranded from larger policies that covered the liabilities associated with a charter aircraft. And they just changed the verbiage, changed the wording around, gave it a new name, priced it differently, or price it the same, and are trying to sell it to you because they know you're ignorant. You don't know the insurance business, especially as a new pilot, and they're going to take advantage of that and try to get some extra bucks to keep that large margin. And I can tell you what, just based off the price of our insurance, they're overpricing you. They're overcharging you for that annual coverage or expense for that $750 to $2,000 annual subscription or for that policy. There are some good hourly rates that you can use, like Verifly. If you're not going to fly a lot and you're out there every once in a while, those are pretty good, right? Just to buy a policy by the hour, no matter where you're flying. A lot of those apps also communicate a lot of useful information about TFRs that are in effect, different regulatory information that's coming from the FAA or local Department of Transportation's, depending on what state you're in. Those are quite useful, for the pilot to know that they're operating in an okay area of operation or a good environment. But if you're flying a lot and you're out there multiple times a week or every day operating, it's definitely not for you because you're going to rack up some serious expenses by paying by the hour. Also goes into hull insurance. That's something that we're going to cover later. And different costs. There are some policies that if your hull insurance or property damage is tied into the liabilities for that claim, the more expensive an aircraft that you're flying, and different airspace for the FAA, different operations, it could be higher. And that makes sense, right? But usually you don't have to worry about that if you're a commercial operator and you're flying very large and very expensive aircraft. What to look for in an insurance policy. It just says, let's face it, unless you're flying in the Hermitage, the odds of you doing $1 million in damage with your 15-pound drone are fairly remote. In most cases, an accident with your drone is going to result in a damaged blade or worse, or a broken window. That said, once you start working with your more commercial clients or those for recreational insurance, larger corporations, you're inevitably going to run into people who earn their living from anxiety and worst case scenarios than lawyers. And that's what I'm talking about, having overpriced policies that were not designed for what you're actually using this insurance for or how you're operating as a pilot. And it means if you're planning on using your drone for simple real estate photography in the suburbs, then you'll probably be fine with a policy that offers $1 million per liability. So if you, depending on where you're operating, if you're not operating downtown or in a city or with a lot of risk or potential for liabilities, you don't need to go out and get a $10 million policy per liability or $5 million. So know your liabilities, know the potential risks that can occur, and get something that is designed for you. Now for events, because we sell event insurance for anything like drone or unmanned related, ours is $2 million. That's our standard, and that most venues require a $2 million policy per liabilities. Now, if you need more, there are some expensive venues out there that require 5 or even a 10 million, which is kind of outrageous. But just talk to the people if you're trying to organize an event, or if you're operating in a venue, just ask them what kind of policies you need. And that's pretty much it for this. I wanted to also cover homeowners, and I talked about this on the last video. If you go to the next link under the mentioned links that I've posted in the Facebook text, or even if you, like I said, if you're watching this on our website after we upload it, go below and check out the links. The next link is from the San Francisco Chronicle under business, and it talks about, does your homeowners or renter policy cover drones? There's a lot of misnomers out there that people think. They hear a rumor that, oh, hey, my homeowner's insurance, or I have some umbrella insurance that covered the liabilities, or when I cause some accident or cause some damage, and my homeowner's insurance picked up the tab. That's not always the case. And some homeowner's insurance will not cover you. Some only cover you up to $15,000. So you really got to look into it. I would call your insurance provider, ask them those questions before you just assume. And then when that bad day comes, that there's an accident, that you don't, that's not the first time that you learn that you're not covered. For example, USAA, in the unlikely event of device crash, property damage, or physical injury, will be covered under the liability portion of our homeowners and renters insurance policies, subject to policy exclusions. In reference to damage to the drone itself, named peril coverage, which includes things such as fire, theft, water damage, wind damage, etc., would apply to the drone. However, damage from a crash is not a named peril, so in that situation, the drone would not be covered. State Farm. There is no coverage for damage to the drone itself due to a crash. Personal property coverage under a homeowner's policy is most often provided for damage from certain causes of loss or perils named in the policy. A drone that is used personally or recreational may be covered against those named perils, but damage due to crashing is not one of the perils. Farmers insurance would say only as the exposure's various risk evolves over time. It is not unusual for policies to similarly be modified over time to more clearly address new risk exposures. As much, there are homeowners and rental insurance policies available to consumers that may address risks associated with drones differently. Understanding that individual policies may vary, it is important for consumers to also recognize that every insurance claim is unique and evaluated individually. Thus, there may indeed be coverage available for damages caused by or to a drone, depending on the circumstances and insurance policy in force at the time of the loss. Consumers are encouraged to review their coverage needs and options with their local agent. So Farmers Insurance is practically saying, if your liability and insurance needs change, that you need to contact them and try to update or create new policies for your application, right? They're definitely not going to work with you with your current insurance that you have that cover previous liabilities to try to fit in new accidents or new liabilities or new perils that fit into it. So like I said, know what you have for insurance coverage. Make sure you remain in contact with your providers. Ask them those questions. Know what you're buying. Is the policy designed for what you need it for in terms of the application or how you're operating? Is it cost effective for you? Is it overcharging for you? Is it trying to take advantage of your ignorance that you don't know what this is designed for? Or is it actually going to cover you? Yes or no? And all your liabilities associated with operating a drone. Here's another misnomer, DJI. A lot of people think that the insurance that comes along with DJI insurance, that it covers liabilities too. It does not. It's only going to cover damage to the aircraft if you were to crash it or damage it in any way. They don't even call it insurance. It's the DJI Care program for being able to replace DJI products or send it in and get fixed by causing damage, bodily harm, any other type of liabilities that are incurred while operating DJI. DJI Care is not going to help you. So do not sit there and think that you're covered while flying DJI just because DJI is protecting the aircraft, and that's like hull damage, which we brought up earlier, and we're going to talk about it next. So make sure you look for policies that cover you, where you're operating and for the liabilities associated with that operation. Okay, so hull damage. The next link we put on was from Avion Insurance. They have a good definition when they're talking about commercial and hobby coverages and what about damage to the drone. It talks about the liabilities associated with drone physical damage or hull coverage as well, from any perils or liabilities that you get in an accident, you crash your drone, and you estimate the damage, the cost of the damage, and what to replace it or to fix it, and you're covered for that, or appraise the damage. And this is definitely, it's similar like what DJI is doing, right, with their aircraft for the DJI Care program, but this is really specific for those operators, especially in commercial, that are operating an aircraft that is insanely expensive. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars for the cost of an aircraft. Or you're operating an aircraft that, let's say for aerial photography or for cinematography, and you're carrying a $50,000 camera. Now, these are the things that you want insured for the operation of that aircraft. You want to make sure that you are covered. Now, this is something that IDRA does not cover. We do not provide hull damage. That is something that we're working on. We couldn't get it through our underwriters. There just wasn't enough data on the frequency of claims for hull damage and the estimated cost or the median cost for a claim. And so that's something we're working on. I know it's something that a lot of operators care about. We're definitely working on that. The next big thing is lipo fires. Lipo fires, every race that we organize, there's at least one or two. And there's a reason why different regulatory bodies are pretty serious about taking lipo fires on a plane. And there's a lot of more regulation coming out about lipos and how dangerous they can be by combusting. I've heard of cars being burnt down. I've heard of houses being burnt down. Sometimes they're covered by homeowners. Sometimes, or most of the time, they're covered by homeowners. Now, for damages caused or liabilities caused by flying your aircraft or your drone, not always is your insurance going to cover that, right? Because think about it. If your lipo battery is not on the drone when you're flying or you're not operating, then if you're not operating, then and it's just in a bag and it could catch fire, then you may not be covered by that liability insurance. And so you need to make sure whatever policy you have, either if you're flying recreational or commercial, see if the policy that you're buying into to cover your liabilities covers related liabilities to the products that you're using for that aircraft, i.e., lipo batteries. And see like if they're stored properly, if they're not even on the aircraft and then one catches fire or combusts, will your insurance still pick up the tab and protect you from those liabilities? And so that's another one. I don't know of any insurance out there that just covers the liabilities associated with LiPo batteries or fires. I've heard of one that does, but we haven't been able to confirm that yet. So again, for other information, you can look at the previous videos that we've posted about the vulnerabilities in the sport or in the hobby as a drone operator. I've uploaded a couple weeks ago a blog about why you need insurance and alternatives to different insurance policies that are out there, primary and secondary. You feel free. I encourage you to not only look more into what we do at IDRA, but also look into the kind of policy that you currently own, because you need to know what you've bought, what you're paying for, and make sure that you're covered. And obviously, make sure that policy was designed for you or not. And if it's overcharging, if it's too expensive, if it wasn't even designed for what you need it for as an operator, or the area that you're operating in, or the kind of aircraft that you're flying. And so make sure you ask all the tough questions, that you understand your policy. For more information about IDRA's insurance, go to our website, idra.co/drone-insurance, and take a look at what we offer for individual pilots, recreational and commercial, for a $1 million primary policy per liability with worldwide coverage, no deductibles. See if you fit into that category, and see if IDRA can help you. And for drone events, if you're working in a company, or if you're an organizer of events, drone racing, educational events, training events, conventions, demonstrations, exhibitions, whatever. If it's related to drones and unmanned systems, we can cover it. $2 million policy per liability, which is mostly cheaper than most policies that you can find out there. So we'll come out with another video to discuss more in depth about what IDRA offers and why we're offering it. But we just want to do this video to show you where you can find different pages, different websites to get more information about policies that are out there, and just insurance, drone insurance in general, between liabilities, hull, and if you're covered or not. So as always, stay safe, have fun. We'll see you at the next race.